Hi, welcome to Beer With Animation Fascination, where four geeks geek out in the vactor-verse. I'm Tim, and with me, as always, is my co-host of Beer With Geeks, Frank. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing great, but there's somebody else here. There's a couple other somebody else's here.
A couple of somebody else's. We also have with us Mark Vibert from Animation Fascination. Mark, how are you today?
Good. How are you guys?
Oh, very good, very good. And we have with us, of course, Vactor from the vactor-verse. How are you today, Vactor?
I'm doing very well. Look up in the sky. It's a bad internet connection. That's why my video is not there. Sorry.
It's to maintain your secret identity.
Oh yeah, that too.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm impressed to see internet connection in the sky. It's like you have super eyes.
Yeah. Yes. I have Wi-Fi vision. I can see.
Wi-Fi vision.
Just think of All-Star Superman with Lex Luthor being like,
yes.
Well,
all the time.
you normally have Wi-Fi vision, but today you have 5G vision.
Yes, that's 100% accurate.
But not DC 5G 5 vision.
Ooh.
Oh, or does he? Because we're talking DC. Anyway, we are here on a three-way crossover with Beer With Geeks, Animation Fascination, and the Vactor-verse to talk my adventures with Superman, which is the newest WB animation outing, the newest Superman animated project. Before we do that, on Beer With Geeks, it is tradition that we have a beverage with our podcasting. So let's start with Vactor. What are you drinking today?
Keep in mind, no one can see you, so you can tell us anything.
I've got the largest glass of root beer you've ever seen. I can actually take a bath in this glass of root beer. But actually, my wife,
that you will be sticky at the end.
that's
exact
100%
opposite of what a bath intends to have.
My wife recently got, for the first time I saw this, sparkling. So Topo Chico is one of our favorite sparkling waters. She got a hard version of Topo Chico, so it's got alcohol in it. I didn't know this existed, so I might be, let's just say I'm drinking that.
Sure, you're drinking that. Good for you. Good for you. Mark, what are you drinking today?
Well, speaking of hard beverages that are normally soft beverages, I am drinking the hard Mountain Dew, just regular hard Mountain Dew, 0 sugar. So a little ASMR.
Nice.
There you go.
That's good. It's a good one.
Love
How is
it.
it actually? I have yet to venture into it's soda, but alcohol in one can. So I did just get Jameson with lime. No, Jameson with lemon, like carbonated in a can. So, but I haven't tried it yet. But how was that, Mark?
Nice. Yeah, it's pretty good. They have like a few different flavors. Like they have the Baja Blast version of it, and then they have like some flavors that are only like the hard Mountain Dew variations. There's like a melon one it's not specifically like the watermelon one that's regular, and I think they have like a cherry one that's slightly different than what Code Red would be too. So yeah, they're pretty good.
Nice. And Frank, my co-host of Beer With Geeks, what are you drinking today?
I'm drinking a spiked soda cola. No, that's not true. I'm enjoying a summer classic, a Sam Adams Summer Ale. Their good old citrus wheat ale. Every bit as good as it ever was.
Indeed. I'm drinking something from Frank's neck of the woods, sort of something he's had before. I'm drinking something from Notch Brewing Company. I am drinking their Salem Lager, which is very good. It's a very nice summer lager, Bavarian style, like just really smooth. Exactly what you want on a 90-degree day.
Yeah.
Well, witch's brew.
Which, I mean, really what you should be drinking on a 90-degree day is water, but I'm inside. So I'm having a Salem Lager.
There you go.
Nice.
Yeah. From my old stomping grounds.
Indeed.
I used to live right there in Salem, and I used to hop over to Notch all the time.
We went once, I think.
I think we did go once together, yeah.
Yeah. You know why? Because you and I are pals, just much like Clark Kent and Jimmy Olsen are pals.
That is correct.
Aren't we all pals here? Now, I'm not really the lead host of this three-way crossover, so somebody else start talking. Like, somebody else take over. Like,
guys, I'm tired. Vactor, you go.
why am I in charge all of a sudden? Like, anyway, no, we all watched the first 2 episodes of my Adventures with Superman. We are here to talk about what we thought. So let's go around round robin. What did we our non-spoiler thoughts, right, first, and then we can dive into spoilers for the first 2 episodes. Does that sound good with everybody?
Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Let's do it.
Mark, you start us off.
Yeah. So, and then if anyone ever hasn't listened to Animation Fascination before, basically my show is focus on animation. It's their name. And then Sylvie's wanted to come in here too. And each week we just focus like on a different aspect of animation, whether it's a TV show or movie to geek out about. So, the first thing that stuck out to me about this show, at least from the trailers, was the animation style in it, where it's kind of got that anime style to it. And the animation studio, at least that did like the animation services for it, is Studio Mir. So if anyone's watched like Volume 2 of Star Wars Visions recently, they did the Journey to Darkhead episode of that. So if you look at both of those, you can kind of see the similarity in the styles there. They did do some work on like Legend of Korra as well too. So if you look them up, they've done like a whole bunch of variations of different stuff. So like my overall takeaway of this is I liked kind of like the new takes that they were doing with all of the characters in here, whereas a little bit different, but also the same from what we met or know. Yes. Whereas changing a little bit of like Clark / Kal-El's origins, and I kind of like what they're doing with like piecemealing like the kind of flashbacks with him too, at least within like these first episodes, which seems like it might be a thing that carries through the rest of the season. But overall, I like the vibe of like the show, the humor, and the style. So,
well, again, apologies you can't see me, but I am grinning from ear to ear because this is exactly, if anyone knows me, this checks every box in the Vactor wheelhouse. It's fantastic animation, it's Superman, it's superheroes, it's great voice acting, it's a fantastic story, and it is fun. And that is what I want from my DC heroes. I want them to be fun. I don't want it to be dark and brooding and everyone hates life and it's always raining. I want it to be sunny in Metropolis. I want to get that feeling that we all had watching Smallville for the very first time. And I think we would not be friends if it was not for Superman and for Smallville. So I think this show just encapsulates everything that I love in life pretty much. So I was the entire time from 2 seconds in, I texted Frank and Tim. And I said, I love this show. This is amazing. This is fantastic. Actually, I texted Mark a little bit after that. And I said, I love this show. And I knew I was going to love it. And I was right. So no spoilers, but I loved everything about this. My Adventures with Superman. I can't wait to hear the guy who hosts the greatest Smallville podcast of all time, Save Me, Frank Ramblings. What did you think about My Adventures with Superman?
No pressure. Wow. Thank you. I love it. Yeah. I love it. I didn't realize you were 2 seconds in when you texted us that, by the way. But I love knowing that because it is like a quintessential Superman. It very much, these first 2 episodes very much gave me the same feeling that I had when I was like, I don't know, 6 or 7 years old watching Superman the animated series premiere for the first time. It gave me the same spark. It is so fun. It is so true to each of the characters, and it's such a fun, fresh take. The place in their careers that they are at, and the sort of the place that we're starting from with all of our main characters at the Daily Planet. So fun. Yes. I am such a huge fan right out the gate.
Yeah, and I agree with all 3 of you, especially the feeling that I got watching it, like I was
Yes.
giddy. Like I think I was
Yeah.
actually giddy
Yes.
watching it.
Yeah.
And right from the bat, even when he was just a kid in Smallville, like
Yes.
early on in that, like I
Mhm.
think I almost texted everyone like early, and I was like, "This show is amazing." I was like, "Wait, no, whole because it might derail," and it only
Right.
ramped. It just got better as it went on.
Yes.
Especially when I started figuring out that I was like, "Oh, you're actually really playing into the DCU and not just like doing some rando like character of the week things." They were like
Right.
all of a sudden I was like, "Oh, we met a lot of DC characters without
Yes.
really mentioning it. Like it wants the audience to figure it out or go along for the ride for the first time." And so, and I loved that about it. But really, it is, to reiterate what you all said, it is like truly joyful. It's
Yes.
a truly joyful show. Like, and there is conflict, right? And like that's important, but there's internal conflict and there's external conflict. And like we've talked about this on Beer with Geeks a lot, but there's like four things that like drive like stories, like
Mhm.
four main things, like the um uh uh well, now I can't remember. Now I can't remember what they are. Um,
Well, first comes love, then comes marriage, then comes.
I'm so terrible. It's definitely the summer because like normally this is the stuff that is just like in my brain.
Keep your brain shut
And
off.
I don't know. So like what they have a need, a want, a ghost, and something else.
MacGuffin.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so like the want is like, so if it's Clark, he's like, I want to go to the Daily Planet and like be a reporter, right?
Right.
And so, but the need is for him to like be with Lois or
Right.
to like be a part of himself or something like that. And then the my gosh, need, want. I gotta use my one lookup. On Beer with Geeks, we have one.
Yes, we have a proud tradition on Beer with Geeks of only allowing each person one chance to Google something, just to keep
using
it
it
as
early.
conversational as possible.
Right. So like Clark's need is to, or his want is to work at the Daily Planet. His need, which is like something the character doesn't know about, like their subconscious desire is to like know himself, basically. He has a lie, the lie he tells himself, the lie that he is normal, right? That he can live a normal life. And then his ghost is something that he's haunted by, and that haunt is the spaceship under his parents' farm, right? And so like all of those were present in the first two episodes. And I was like, and every character has one. It tells you right away, like our trio of Lois, Jimmy, and Clark. And so I just was even the villain has one, like who I will not speak of right now because it is spoiler-ish. But yeah, it's like, so it's really well written, and I just I loved it all. But let's say spoilers from here on out, everybody.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. 5, 4, 3, spoiler. At what point did everybody realize they were watching a story about Livewire? And then at what point did everyone realize they were watching Deathstroke?
Ha
Deathstroke, I didn't find that out until afterwards, and I saw who was doing the voice, and then I saw it was Chris Parnell, which he was doing a voice that was much higher register than he normally does. So normally I pick out Chris Parnell right away. I've seen him in Hotel Transylvania and Archer. He's one of my favorite like comedic actors, but I had no idea that he was Deathstroke until the credits, until seeing his name in the credits. Livewire, I kind of figured because I was like, there's kind of like some electricity and like there's a tradition of, obviously Livewire started in the Superman animated series and then transferred over to the comics. So I was kind of like, oh, maybe they're going with that tradition of the animated ties. And so I had a feeling it was Livewire, but I didn't have a confirmation until after. Again, I'm one of those guys that as soon as it's over, I look up every single voice actor. Because normally I like to guess everyone. And my wife was like, how do you know all these people? This one, I actually had to look up the most of the voice talents, but I was very happy when I saw who they were playing in the credits.
Me as well.
And I got to say, speaking of voice actors and credits, I already knew Jack Quaid was Superman,
Mhm.
Clark Kent, Kal-El, but what Tim was saying about the feeling of this show is perfect. I think Jack Quaid is perfect casting because his voice and his personality, I think, is so fun. And I if anyone is a fan of Lower Decks, his character Boimler on there is hilarious and just like you want to be his best friend, and that transfers over here to Superman. Like I want Clark and Superman to win, as I always do, but because of Jack Quaid's kind of personality and his infectious joy that he has in his voice, it's like that he brings a very relatable element to it, and he's not like a big booming hello. Like Clark
Yeah.
is not like Superman. Like he's, hey guys, like he feels like he's your friend, and that's, I think everybody has said it here, that leads to this fresh take on it. Like we haven't seen this take before, and it's also perfect. It also fits right in. It's like it fits like a glove. It's like, oh, he should have been Superman this whole time. Like we should have had him earlier. So I think that goes without saying for all of the cast. Like everyone had a great role to play, and everyone's playing their part in these first two episodes. At least everyone is just going into their roles and filling in their slots just perfectly. So I got to say kudos to the casting director, because it was inspired casting to have Jack Quaid. Because that's one of those things, like if you said that to me 2 years ago, hey, you know that guy that's on The Boys and he was a bad guy in Scream? Yeah, he should be Superman. I would not have told you were a sane person. But now, after seeing this, I'm like, yes, he was perfect and he fit all along. So like I said, I just got to give kudos to the casting director.
Yeah, actually, you said something, the casting director, especially because, like, I find I'm very critical of voices not matching the bodies of animated characters. Like, it
Mhm, mhm.
it really takes me out of a project when that shouldn't be what that person's
Right.
voice sounds like. It just
Right.
they just don't, they are not
Yes.
compatible at all.
Yes.
I did not find that at all in this show. But I didn't
Mhm.
even know it was Chris Parnell as Slade,
Right.
which
Right.
I right, and so,
Yes.
like you said before, I had to look. You had to look it up.
Yep.
I felt like everybody was their character, was their
Yes.
body type,
Yes.
was their
Yes.
movement, and that's really hard to accomplish. And I really haven't felt like this comfortable watching a DC animated project since Andrea Romano retired.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
everybody just worked, and it worked so well. Maybe not since Andrea Romano. Like everyone on Harley Quinn is great too, but like
Yes. Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
but
Yes.
that's comedy, so like it like
Yes.
it can be off if and that's okay. Go ahead,
Mhm.
Frank.
I feel like it is in the sort of in the tradition of Andrea Romano, though. Like it gave me those sort of
Yeah.
vibes.
Right.
Actually, from the very first frame of the show,
Yes.
it was very like this is a Warner Brothers show. Like,
Mhm,
and I mean
mhm.
that literally. Like the WB animation logo, like just makes me smile. You know, like
Yeah.
it's so like seeing that from the very out from the get go. There is a certain feel that Warner Brothers shows have, even though this was, you know, I under a different studio made this.
Mhm, mhm.
The way it's being distributed, obviously, right? Like it still
Right.
has that Warner Brothers sensibility to it. And Andrea Romano was a big driver of that sensibility in animation for
Yes.
the longest
Yes.
time. And this
Mhm.
very much feels inspired by a lot of that work.
Yes.
I
How did
agree with
everyone feel about it? Like as because you all come from different backgrounds of liking anime, being passive towards anime,
Yes.
you know, like whatever. Like, how does everyone feel about it being like a truly like anime Superman show? Because when it was first announced, I'm not a huge anime fan, so I was kind of like, we'll see. But truthfully, I was blown away by what I was watching because it didn't like, not that it wasn't true anime, but it was like
Mhm.
I found like Avatar is more anime than My Adventures with Superman. This just happened.
Hmm.
Like the biggest vibe I got from it is that Metropolis kind of feels like Tokyo in anime.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It has that like kind of light, airy, sunny quietness that a lot of anime has when it depicts
Right, right.
cities.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll take the lead on this one because I feel like I am part Japanese. I lived in Japan. I have a huge love of anime, And I think this fits in perfectly into that genre. And I saw some talk online of people kind of trying to push away from that. And I'm trying to embrace it. I think this falls right in line with all of the classic anime tropes, even to the point of, if anyone is familiar with Sailor Moon, that is an anime that there's a transition when she becomes superpowered, and his first time getting the suit was a straight up Sailor Moon transformation. And I was like, yes, this is fantastic. Like, this is not a way we've seen this before in super. Like, we all have this history with the character, and this is just something that we have not seen before with Superman. So I love that whoever made that initial decision to say, you know what, let's do Superman with an anime twist or an anime spin. I think we also have to give whoever that was credit, as well as the casting director, because it fits perfectly. And there's been kind of dabblings before with superheroes and anime. Like Marvel had in the late 90s, early 2000s, they had like an X-Men anime, and there's been a couple of dipping the toes in the water. But I think this might be the most full on expression of a superhero character as anime, and not like a fan thing where somebody's drawing Harley Quinn in an anime style or something like that. Like, this feels to me like it could have been dubbed into Japanese, and I would have, like, if you showed it to me in Japanese the first time, I would have been like, oh yeah, this is an anime. This is not American made. So I think they get all the kudos for that choice and that decision, because it all of those things, like I said, all the anime tropes and the things like the eyes getting small and like having these exaggerated emotions and like all of those things fit perfectly. Nothing was out of place to me of, oh, this is an animated project I'm watching, and like this shouldn't have been that way. They shouldn't have had the lines above his head, like, oh, he's worried or he's sweating or whatever. Like, all of that stuff fit in perfectly, and it made me think, why haven't I seen this before? So I just think it was a big win on that side of it, and I want to see more superhero projects in this kind of anime style.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One of the things, because you brought up the suit, I was thinking about was uh, when that happened, when it kind of just like materialized on him.
Uh-huh.
I was wondering, I was like, oh, okay, so they're gonna go like that route on it, where it's just kind of like this different way with how he got the suit. But then I liked when he shows back up at home, where his mom's like, well, I have some ideas, and then
Yes.
so she adds like the trunks to it and the
Yes,
belt, and she
yes.
like makes some other modifications. So I like that she still had a like hand in kind of like modifying what his suit ended up being.
Yes.
And like some of like the other stuff that we've been talking about in here too, with like between a little bit between like Clark and Lois too. I saw that the like the showrunners, they're really playing off of like the interplay between like Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder within the 1978 film to kind of try to replicate that a little bit, or have it have like the same kind of feel between like this version of Clark and Lois and that.
Right.
And I liked in, I don't remember if it was the first part or the second part, but like how like they even like showed like, just because Clark like likes Lois in it, that he wasn't just going to give her a pass for like lying about certain stuff, and how he actually like had like a moral like objection to like her like telling him that lie to it. And
Right.
so I like what they're like playing around in here with this, as far as like doing slight tweaks to some of the stuff in here too. And you said that you looked up the cast after. I did that too, and now I kind of wish I hadn't, because I saw like a full list of
Cast. What's coming
so,
next?
Yeah, so I won't say who else, in case nobody else did, but that made it made me excited for some other stuff that's coming with.
Yeah.
Just
Tom Cruise was a
off...
surprise, though. Tom Cruise was a total surprise.
What was like some of the stuff you guys liked the most, as far as like stuff that's not like what they like when you think Superman or like Clark Kent, or like stories for that where they kind of went slightly more like in like I guess like the anime direction, or what did you guys like most about some of that stuff that kind of stood out to you?
I really liked the way that they handled, like, I love that they made some subtle changes to Clark's story that still
Yes.
fit his overall journey. Like, I
Yes.
love the way that he is afraid when he sees the spaceship. Like the seeing Jor-El and all of that freaks him out, and he like reburies it. He's like, nope, not yet. Not ready
Right.
for this right now. Can't
Right.
handle this.
Right.
I actually kind of like that as a different take, because, like, we already know when we see that, we already know that he gets there, that he comes to terms with it. So, like, I mean, the show's called My Invention. Anyway, it's I love that the way that they approached that. I loved that we're very used to Jor-El being a hologram. I've never seen like the fortress itself be a hologram, which is basically what we got. And I kind of dug that as like a new direction and a new spin on that, because he can still be anywhere and be like at the fortress.
To add to that, we have not seen Clark unable to communicate with Jor-El.
Yes. I was going to mention that.
Yes.
He's speaking presumably Kryptonian.
Kryptonese, yeah.
Right.
Kryptonese. But what I found interesting is that when like he's like, I don't understand what you're saying, like, who are you to me or whatever. And Jor-El says filio, which is Latin for son. So I was like, wait, I was really paying attention. Was he speaking Latin this whole time? Did he like get wrong information about sending Clark? And he's like, I would have probably recognized the Latin, but like, it's interesting that like how like it, why that was an interesting. I mean, I don't know why that's the direction they went with, but like that's a known word, like from another pretty famous language. So like, I wonder where that's going.
Same.
Yeah, there must be some story that they're going to tell, because I was thinking, oh, it's just going to get it translated. He's going to download something into his brain, and that's going to translate the entire language. He's going to touch a crystal, and then he's going to know everything. So
I kept waiting for that.
Yeah, the fact that they didn't do that is very interesting to me, that there's going to be another story to tell in that regard. So I'm with you guys. It's very much this, I think, modernization maybe, and changing it, but still making it familiar to us as Superman fans, but then also accessible to new fans, which I was also going to mention. I think this is like a perfect thing to show somebody who's never seen Superman before, because up to this point, I've been thinking about this for years, because like I said, we all have this love for the character, but for the past decade, I would say Superman really hasn't been that approachable for new readers, new listeners, new viewers. The biggest thing we've had is Henry Cavill. That's been the mainstream version of Superman that's been out there for the most part, because there's not like a huge, I'm thinking of Spider-Man with like, okay, not only do you have the MCU, but you've also got these massive Spider-Man video games on PlayStation that people are experiencing. And
there is Superman and Lois, right?
Right. I don't think that is as big. Like, if you think of like us, we all are Superman fans already. We're already in the pocket for Superman. And the CW, I would say CW has a big kind of influence in the popular culture of the Arrowverse and people, Smallville, like I said, going back to that. But I think like people I talk to at work, let's say, their knowledge of Superman starts and ends with Henry Cavill at this point. Like, it used to be Christopher Reeve, now it's Henry Cavill. And when I try to get, like, let's say for example, like my wife's sister, who doesn't read comic books, doesn't know too much about it, but she's interested. Like, whenever she comes over, she'll watch an animated movie with us, and I want to show her something of Superman. Really, the only thing I've been able to show her is All-Star Superman up to this point, the animated All-Star Superman. And this is what I've been looking for, to introduce new people to Superman in a fun way. You understand the character. This is why we all love him. And it's not, oh, he's boring, he's got too many, he's overpowered, he's a Boy Scout, all this stuff. Whereas Captain America, Steve Rogers is almost the exact same, but because of Chris Evans' portrayal in the MCU, hey, everybody loves Steve Rogers, everybody loves Captain America. With Superman, I find talking to people who are not us, who are not in the Superman fan club, it's hard to get them to be like, hey, why do you like Superman? And so I think this is a show I can be like, here, this is why. He's look at him, he's cool, and this guy's he's relatable, he's Superman. So I love that this show is now going to fulfill that need for me of, hey, what can I recommend to people of Superman, and it not be necessarily a comic book, because Tim, we can go into the current stuff that's coming out with Superman is fantastic. The
Awesome.
current Superman
So good.
comics
Mhm.
are amazing. But for people who are not reading the comics, this is what I'm going to show them. Adventures of Superman, My Adventures of Superman. This is what you want to be watching right now.
Yeah, it gave me huge Lois and Clark vibes.
Yes,
it had
yes,
that,
yes.
like, we're interested in the relationship between Lois and Clark, and Superman
Yes.
also is there.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, which
Right.
I really appreciate, because Frank and I say this all the time. Our favorite superhero stories are ones where they're just talking, and not fighting, and like, not that
Right.
that's what the show was the whole time, but it's like very interested in the human relationship.
Yeah, that's
Right.
right.
It's very interested in the conversation. One thing we have not talked about yet that I really want to get out there is Superman definitely going blue
Ooh,
at
yes.
some point, right? Because this is like
Yes.
his like super, like, his super move. Like,
Yes.
he's gonna power up so much, he's gonna
Yes.
become this. And I'm
And it's very anime. Like
very
even from
anime,
the
right?
Totally.
Yes.
It
From-
reminds me hardcore of like Digimon, because I was a big Digimon
Yeah.
kid.
Yeah.
Up with it.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
yes, I powered up, and now I'm a giant
Yes.
angel. And you're like,
Yes.
yes, do it. Yeah. So
Right. And
I'm
that's another, that's just another of those, like,
Blue Superman, for those of you who are just listening on audio, I said this without like any reference to what I'm talking
Yes.
about. So thank you for this pop, by the way, Factor. It's
Yes.
handy.
Yes. I even from the opening, like the Clark in Smallville when he's a little kid and he saves that car from crashing into the tree, his eyes turn blue and it's like, oh, his power is being activated. And that is, we haven't seen that before. That's not, like I said, that's kind of like a modernization, or this is what Superman in 2023 is. And I just like, it's good to see a fresh take on something that you've lived with for your entire life, and this is why this character is, has lasted for this long and is going to continue to last past all of us. We are all going to be 6 feet under, and Superman is still going to be going strong. And that's the reason is, just like with Batman, the character adapts, and this is people taking the story. And we're seeing this, I think, with Spider-Man too, with Across the Spider-Verse, and a lot of stuff that's coming out now is modern storytellers are taking these characters, and they're so moldable and pliable and flexible that they can fit into any story that you tell. And then just that core being of who Superman is, who Lois Lane is, who Jimmy Olsen is, it still works. It worked in the 40s and it works in the 2020s. So I think, like, everything about this show is hitting for me. Like you said, the relationships, the fact that it is My Adventures with Superman, and I think we're gonna get a focus on the Jimmy Olsen relationship to Superman, the Clark relationship to Superman, and the Lois relationship. Like, it's everybody's adventures with Superman, and that's just a unique take from the ground up that we haven't seen before, I think. So that's just, again, I think the core strength of this show is that it's doing something new, but it's also tapping into our love of this character and our love of Superman. So it's hitting both of those audiences, the old timers and the youngsters as well.
And kind of, with speaking of strength, that was one of the things that I liked that they did a little bit in this episode too, was another way to kind of make him relatable, and it kind of to play off of like the clumsy weakness version of Clark, but to like
Mhm.
him not like knowing his own strength many of the times, or like he
Yes,
like
yes.
breaks the faucet, breaks his shoes in half,
Right.
pulls like the handle off. So I liked them just playing around with stuff like that, just to work in a little bit more like relatable stuff of like he still doesn't fully know how to use all of these abilities yet, and he's like still very early on with it. So
Right.
I liked that whole element, how they kind of weaved that through these first two episodes.
And to go off of that too, I liked actually the parallel between like Clark breaking his alarm clock and Lois like hitting hers as hard as she
Yes.
could,
Yes.
not
Yes.
breaking, like it going the back and forth between them, because it like unifies them in their separateness. Like it's like
Right.
really really strong storytelling. Like you learn so much about all three of them in such a short amount of time. Like there's not a wasted second or a wasted line of dialogue. There's so much great word economy and story economy here. Like I learned a lot more about Jimmy in this, like in each of these like 25-minute episodes than I like do for like most of Jimmy's like comic book origin,
Right.
right?
Right.
Mm.
Like, and I
Mhm.
love that like conspiracy theory, like it's the aliens. Like I
Yes.
Yes.
just love that is,
Yes.
and I love that he's already best friends with Clark. I just like that.
Right.
Mm.
Like it's like I'm weirdly friends with Superman. It's like I'm friends with Clark, who happens to be Superman. That's how he's
Yes.
Superman. That's
Right.
that's much better for me.
Yeah, man, there's just so much great things. And actually, I should mention, I was talking about how the superheroes have dipped their toes in the anime format. Also, got to give credit to Teen Titans Go, because that, number one, that show has been going on for years. There's so many episodes, and they've done an anime style, like a comedy anime, and Beast Boy will shrink and get, little, and he'll change proportions, and then all of a sudden, okay, now he's back to normal again. So they've been playing around with that anime format for years. So if you're going for DC and you like anime stuff, Teen Titans Go, on top of being just a funny, great show, that has a lot of anime influence in there as well.
Mm-hmm. I
And I
love
was
Teen
actually,
Titans.
Mark, you were talking about. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say Teen Titans Go is great. Like you're totally right.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Um,
top notch.
Mark, yeah, I love Teen Titans Go. Mark, you were talking about um, this take on Superman, and I was listening to a podcast or an interview with the showrunners, and they were saying that struggling with his strength and kind of getting used to his footing is going to be a recurring theme throughout this whole first season, and this really is kind of like Superman year one. Like he is not established as Superman yet, and I think that's also going to help to make it more relatable. And like I said, the people who, oh, he's too overpowered, blah blah blah. This is a
Yeah.
young Clark. This is, I think, this take on Clark learning to use his powers, and he's not Kingdom Come Superman. He hasn't been, Superman for 20, 30 years or whatever, and he does not have experience. So we're going to have fun, I think, this whole first season, him discovering all these new enemies and him discovering his power and how to use that power. So yeah, it's going to be a fun ride, boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One last thing before we,
right.
I think our final thoughts on for everybody as we wrap up here. I just want to say
Yeah.
he's super cleaned up at the end of a fight. Like he
Oh.
wouldn't like, well, that was enough. He was like, I'm gonna put all the cars back and I'm gonna
Right.
fix the concrete. And I'm gonna do this. And I was like, yes, this is what I want.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
Like, yes, you demolish the city, but then you fix it afterward.
yes.
And nobody got hurt. Like I was like I was already sold, but that just like I bought it again. Like that was I needed to.
Yes.
Like
That was
so
perfect.
it was perfect. Perfect. Mark, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, kind of like what Vactor was saying with, like, how some people talk about like not being able to make Superman relatable. Is it seems like they'll use this kind of like as a theme through the season, because they've already kind of used it a little bit, but with it is you can do that because you can basically just play off of like his sense of like loneliness, because even though
Yes.
he's like got all of the strength, he can do all of this stuff, he's really, that also kind of boxes him in too, and he can't like really like share all of that with anybody else, and still feels very lonely for that, because again he's supposed to be like the last of his kind too. So, and anybody can feel that kind of sense of loneliness. So I think I like at some of the angles that they're coming at with it in here, and I'm hoping that they kind of play with that a little bit more throughout I don't know how many episodes the season's supposed to be, but however many
10.
episodes, 10. Okay, yeah. So however many they end up doing with it, I think it'll be cool to see what they end up doing with that theme.
Yeah, and they already got, as we were talking about before our podcast, before this recording, they've already been greenlit for season 2. So we already know we're getting 2 seasons of this. So like I said, I think we're in for a fantastic ride all throughout seasons 1 and 2, and I can't wait to see what they do with it.
Yeah.
Frank, your final thoughts.
I'm so glad this show is here. I'm so glad that we get another 18 episodes of it at least. And I'm so excited. You know what you were just saying about the way that that they bring these characters to life, like and that they're able to, like, you can tell good Superman stories. Like
Yes.
I think it's for every good Superman story that we get to see, whether it's in comics or on the big screen or on the small screen or wherever, animation, live action, whatever format, the more good stories we get, the more that puts the lie to that old crutch of an excuse that, like, it's just, all the good Superman stories have been told, or he's really not like a good character to tell stories with.
Right.
I think I think that the right imaginations can tell really good Superman stories, and they're out there and they're doing it and they're making good Superman stuff. And I'm so excited whenever I get to experience a new one come to us like this one did. And like I said, it gave me the same feeling that I had in like 1996 or 97, whenever Superman the Animated Series launched. And it's that's a very good feeling to have.
Nice.
You can't see me, but I'm pumping my fist right now.
I believe it.
We all
See
do
it
it
on
backwards.
my side. All right. Well, that's it for our 3-way crossover. Mark, where can the people find you?
People can find me at on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook for Animation. I picked an easy name. Animation Fascination at Animation Fascination on Twitter, on Instagram and Facebook, and then Animated Podcast on Twitter and animatedpodcast.net. What?
Are you on Threads?
Oh, yes. Just because to claim it before somebody else did. So, yes.
Right on.
Also there as Animation Fascination.
Very good. Frank, where can people find you and me?
You can find us at beerwithgeeks.com. Thoughtbubbleaudio.com is our network where we have Beer with Geeks, as well as Superman TV Talk. You can find me over there. Yeah, I wore my t-shirt to my... Anyway. I wore the t-shirt to the concert. Sue me. Yeah. We just finished our Superman and Lois season 3 wrap-up, so check that out.
Awesome.
Nice.
You can find me in the dugout over there.
Yeah, sure, yes. Tim is...
Yeah.
Find me on the pitch.
Yeah.
I mean, on the pitch. There you go, yeah. So, yeah, beerwithgeeks.com, or, anywhere that you can find your podcast, you'll find Beer with Geeks. So check that out. What about you, Mr. Vactor?
I am mainly at youtube.com/Vactor. Each week in the vactor-verse, I'm trying to have different lovely comic book content creators like yourselves on to talk about their canon events of how they got into comic books. And then each day I'm trying to do biographies on different comic book characters, unless I'm not feeling good. At that time, I was sick for the last 2 weeks, but I'm trying to put out as much comic book goodness as I can. So youtube.com/Vactor for most of my content.
Very good. Well, it was a pleasure to chat with all of you gentlemen.
Yeah.
I would love to wrap up the season with all of you guys. Now that I feel like we're in it now, so I feel like we'll be back to the end. We'll be back to the end of the season, unless you don't want to be, Mark, which is fine. You don't like us anymore. No. All right. So, well then, gentlemen, until next time. Cheers.
Cheers.